Welcome and thank you for joining me today. Now, I'll be real with you. You've probably seen a lot of retirement webinars, and here's another retirement webinar. But this isn't just another retirement webinar filled with generic advice. And if you have saved over $2 million and you're between the ages of 55 and 67, what you do in the next 5 to 10 years will shape everything about your retirement. And this is exactly why I created this webinar, to give you a clear path and answer the big questions like, how do you reduce taxes? How do you protect your income and wealth from sudden market drops? And how do you leave behind a clean, tax-efficient legacy? I'm going to walk you through the exact 3-part framework that I use with my clients to help them not just retire successfully, but intentionally, without having to worry about these questions. And if you currently have a financial advisor and you're paying them 0.5% or 1% of your investment portfolio just to manage your investments, and they haven't talked to you about any of this, or they haven't reviewed your taxes, then you definitely need to watch this entire webinar. And by the end of this webinar, you're going to feel a whole lot more confident about the road ahead of you, and you may be even ready to fire your financial advisor. So as you think about your own retirement, let's talk about the questions that are probably going in your mind right now. Questions like, how do you design a tax-efficient retirement so you're not overpaying Uncle Sam year after year? Or how do you protect your wealth from market volatility, especially those sudden drops that can derail your income plan, without locking everything into annuities or insurance products with high fees or surrender charges? And how do you pass on wealth efficiently, whether it's to your kid, to your spouse, or to your favorite causes, while minimizing taxes and eliminating any unnecessary drama? You see, these aren't just nice to haves. These are essential pillars to retiring with real peace of mind. Saving over $2 million is just the beginning. Now you have to decide whether that money will support the life that you have worked so hard for, or are you gonna let taxes, market drops, and poor planning slowly chip it away? And in these next few slides are gonna show you exactly how to stay ahead of those risks before they become costly mistakes. Here's the thing, it's not about just growing your money anymore. It's about preserving it. And you're likely at the window where these issues go from someday to right now. But now the stakes are much different. So before I walk you through the first strategy, let me take a quick moment to introduce myself so you know who you're hearing this from. Hi, my name is Raman Singh. I'm a husband, a dad to my little boy Luke, and I'm the founder of Singh PWM. I've been working with clients with their financial planning needs for over 14 years, and I've had the privilege of helping more than 1,000 families navigate the biggest transition of their lives, and that's retirement. And this is what I do every day, serving as a personal CFO to clients just like yourself. And the first conversation I have with my clients is, are you still planning like a grower, or are you thinking like someone who's about to start drawing income? Have you shifted your mindset from growth mode to income mode? How will you handle a 30% market drop and still collect income without any disruption and panic? Oh, and are you factoring in taxes as you enter this next phase in your life? Because here's something no one talks about enough. Retiring isn't just about building wealth. It's about knowing how to spend it. You see, when you're working, you're in growth mode. You earn, you save, you invest, and you repeat. But in retirement, you flip the script. You start drawing out of your investments, and the rules completely change. Now you're dealing with income planning. Market risk is real now. Longevity risk, inflation, and most importantly, withdrawal timing and taxes. And you see, if you keep managing your money like you're 45, you could set yourself up for massive tax bills or run out of money too early. So how do you pull income out of your accounts in a way that keeps your tax bill low every single year for the rest of your life? Let me show you exactly how that works. But before we dive into the strategy, I want to take a quick moment to take a look at the 5 of the biggest retirement pitfalls I see far too often. Because understanding what can go wrong is just as important as knowing what to do right. Number 1, too many people hit retirement with no plan for managing their RMDs, their Social Security taxes or Medicare premiums, and that causes their taxes to go up. Number 2, if the market drops early in retirement while they're taking withdrawals, they run into sequence of risk return. Number 3, and without a coordinated estate plan, their family faces unnecessary taxes, delays, and legal issues, things that could be completely avoidable with proper planning. And number 4, retirees underestimate just how long their retirement could last and how inflation eats into their purchasing power. And number 5, this one flies under the radar. It's not what you just invest in. It's where those investments live. The wrong mix of assets in a taxable versus tax deferred accounts can create hidden inefficiencies. You see, a big part of planning starts with understanding the different type of accounts you may already have and how they're taxed. Because if you don't, you could end up stepping right into these traps without even realizing it. First, we take a look at the taxable accounts. These are your brokerage accounts, your savings, your CDs. You pay taxes annually on the interest, dividends, and capital gains. But what's the upside? Well, they give you the flexibility and allow you to do techniques like tax loss harvesting or capital gain harvesting. And next we have is tax deferred accounts. These are your traditional IRAs, your 401ks. You've been deferring taxes for years, but now every dollar you pull out is taxed as ordinary income. And when you hit 75, you'll be forced to take required minimum distributions whether you need the money or not. And finally, we have our tax-free account. Think of your Roth IRAs, your HSAs. These accounts are incredibly powerful because qualified withdrawals come out completely tax-free, and they can actually help reduce your taxable income. They can help you avoid reducing IRMAA surcharges on Medicare, and they can leave behind tax-free inheritance. You see, each of these account types play a different role in your plan, and having all three gives you what I call is tax diversification. And just like investment diversification, tax diversification gives you the flexibility to adapt to the changing tax laws and market conditions. But you see, having a mix of accounts isn't just enough. The real power lies in how you draw from them over time. Because if you withdraw in the wrong order, you could spike up your tax bracket, you could reduce your Social Security efficiency, and you can even trigger Medicare premium. But first, let me tell you something about John and Jane's retirement plan. You see, John and Jane are a 60-year-old couple who are starting their retirement with $3 million saved, and all of their savings are in traditional IRAs and pre-tax 401ks. They had no taxable brokerage accounts, no Roth IRAs, just tax-deferred dollars. And their plan is to withdraw $100,000 a year after taxes so they can support their lifestyle. Now, they're hoping to only earn about 4% return on their investments, plus they'll be getting Social Security benefits, and they're hoping to live up to in their mid-90s. Now, that sounds pretty reasonable, right? Well, here's what's going to happen in their situation. Over the course of retirement, they would have taken out about $4 million. Now, they would have paid over $800,000 in taxes, and they would have still had about $1.7 million left at age 95. Now, their kids would have inherited that $1.7 million, and the kids would have paid $636,000 in taxes, which means over the life of this account, they would have paid around $1.5 million in taxes. Now, if John and Jane had actually diversified their tax buckets before retiring with a mix of Roth, pre-taxed, and brokerage accounts, over $734,000 in unnecessary taxes could have been slashed dramatically. Want to see how? Well, let's suppose their $3 million was split between traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, and brokerage accounts. With the same assumptions, if they were to structure their withdrawals, they would have still withdrawn over $4 million over their lifetime, and they would have had close to $2.5 million left by their age 95. And their total taxes paid between them and their children would have been around $734,000. That's a savings of $734,000 just from proper tax location of their investments. But you see, here's the thing. Even with the perfect tax diversification, the order you pull money from still makes all the difference. Because it's not about where just your money sits. It's about the order in which you pull from those accounts. And this is called withdrawal sequencing, which can make or break your tax bill over the next 30 years. Take a look at this chart. So we saw earlier on John and Jane's situation. With only pre-tax money, you could end up paying around $833,000 in taxes over your lifetime, assuming you have $3 million, plus what your children would pay. But what if you strategize and have proper tax diversification, and you withdraw from pre-tax accounts first, then taxable brokerage accounts, and then your Roth IRA? Well, your tax bill drops down to $548,000. Oh, and what if you withdraw from brokerage first and pre-tax last? Well, then your tax bill drops down to $549,000. But look at this optimized strategy on the far right. This approach blends smart timing, starting off with brokerage funds, topping off some income from the IRAs, only to fill your tax bracket, and letting the Roth IRA grow, maybe slightly touching it. And the result? You could cut your tax bill nearly 50% down to $416,000. Seriously, it's not just about having tax diversification, it's about using it the right way. And the order in which you tap your retirement accounts can dramatically impact your tax bill. I mean, look at John and Jane's situation. If they optimized the order of their withdrawals and tax diversification, they would have been able to cut their tax bill over $400,000. That's about savings of $12,000 per year in taxes. And that level of savings could fund another 5 to 6 more years of retirement. So if you're wondering whether it's worth building a distribution plan, the answer is yes, 1,000 times yes. But we can even take this further. You see, if you have a large IRA or a 401k, the government is just waiting. And when you turn 75, required minimum distributions kick in. Whether you need the money or not, that's going to push up your taxes. It's going to inflate your Medicare premiums, and it's going to force you into higher tax brackets. And this is where a Roth conversion lets you take control of that. And here's why that matters, especially right now. You can reduce or even eliminate your future RMD. You can lock in today's tax rates before they potentially go up. You can set up tax-free inheritance. You can also smooth out your tax brackets over time, avoiding any big spikes later in retirement. And here's the part most people miss. The time to do this is now. And let me show you exactly what that looks like. In your late 50s and early 60s, you start converting $40,000 to $60,000 a year from your traditional IRA into your Roth IRA just to fill in the 12% or your 22% tax bracket. From your ages 64 to 67, this is when you probably start Medicare, or you're probably on your spouse's health insurance plan because your spouse isn't retired yet. You can still convert, but slightly lesser, just enough to stay under the IRMAA income limit and avoid surcharges. And by your late 60s and early 70s, a major portion of your IRA has been moved into Roth. And that means your future RMDs at 75 will be much smaller and more of your income will be tax-free. And anything beyond age 75, well, you've built a powerful mix of small RMDs, tax-free Roth income, and capital gains treated brokerage withdrawals. And this is how you stretch out tax exposure intentionally, controlling it instead of being surprised by it. And when it comes to taking withdrawals, in your early retirement years, this is your tax planning sweet spot. You've likely stopped working, but you haven't started RMDs yet, or Social Security, and that gives you control. So start off with proportionate withdrawals, maybe heavier on taxable or tax-deferred accounts, depending on your tax bracket. Start Roth conversions to fill up your lower tax brackets now, which sets the stage to reduce future RMDs. And during your mid-retirement years, well, this is where your RMD begins. Your income goes up. Your taxes can spike if you're not careful. And this is where you balance. You coordinate withdrawals from RMDs, your Roth accounts, and your taxable brokerage accounts. You adjust your income based on your health, your lifestyle, and your legacy goals. And you make sure you pay close attention to IRMAA brackets. And during your late retirement years, now we're in the legacy and longevity zone. Healthcare costs tend to go up, and flexibility matters. This is where you shift more towards Roth income, your brokerage accounts, and the remaining of your RMDs to supplement high cost year. And this is what retirement income planning looks like. Not just a number on a spreadsheet, but a living, breathing strategy that shifts as your life evolves. But here's another force that ties right into all this, and that's Social Security. You see, most people treat it like a paycheck, but you need to think of Social Security as a long-term income strategy, not just a monthly benefit. And getting it wrong could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime income. Here's why. Every year you delay beyond your full retirement age, your benefit grows by 8% per year up to your age 70. That's a guaranteed return with no stock market risk, just a bigger check for life. And if you're married, don't look at your benefits in isolation, because staggering them when each spouse claims, you can maximize your total household income and boost your survivor benefits. And you see, delaying doesn't mean going without income. You can tap into your IRAs or your brokerage accounts early to cover your expenses while you're letting your Social Security grow in the background. And it's a great time to spend strategically and convert your funds to Roth. Yes, your account balance might dip slightly in the short term while you delay Social Security, but what you're doing is trading a little bit of short-term drawdown for a higher inflation-adjusted income stream that you can never outlive. You see, it's about coordinating the moving parts in a way that keeps more money in your pocket and puts you in control, which is your withdrawals, your Social Security, your investments. They all have to work together. And there's one more threat that can quietly derail your plan, even with the best retirement plan, and that is market volatility. Because let's be honest, it's not about what you earn, it's about what you keep. And if the market drops early in retirement while you're pulling money out, well, that can set you back for years. Take a look at this chart. The gray bars show the total annual return of the S&P 500 each year. But look at these red dots. These are the biggest market drops that happened at any given point during that year. That's called intra-year volatility. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, even in years when the market ended up strong, there were moments when it was down 10%, 15%, even 30% before it recovered. Now imagine this. You retire, you're pulling income from your portfolio, and suddenly you hit one of those red dots. If you have to sell investments while the market is down just to pay your bills, you are locking in losses that might never come back. And that's sequence of returns risk. It can derail even a best well-diversified plan. So what's the solution? Well, first off, you need to have money set aside outside of volatile assets, so you don't have to sell anything during downturn. Also, you need to segment your portfolio into buckets: short-term for spending, mid-term for stability, and long-term for growth. That way, when the market dips, you have time to wait it out. And you need to diversify by a job, not just by asset class. Is this money for income? Is this money for growth? Or is this money for protection? And in a down year, pull income from your stable bucket, and once the market recovers, you can rebalance. And that protects your long-term money from short-term volatility. You see, at this stage in your life, your portfolio isn't just a growth engine. It's your financial support system. And this is why asset allocation matters, especially after age 50. And not just by asset class, but also by time horizon and purpose. Your growth assets are 10 plus years out, heavily invested in equities to outpace inflation. Your income assets cover the next 3 to 10 years, which is bonds, dividend-paying stocks, REITs. This is your paycheck replacement. And then you have your stability assets to fund the next 3 years, which is money markets, CDs, high yield savings for liquidity and peace of mind. And remember, diversification isn't just about owning 50 different funds. It's about combining assets that behave differently across all market cycles. And that's what protects you emotionally and financially. And finally, tax location matters. Growth assets should belong in your Roth IRAs. Income assets tend to fit well in traditional IRAs, and taxable accounts should be a home of tax-efficient ETFs and dividend-paying stock. You need to give every dollar a job, whether it's growth, income, stability, and tax efficiency. But you see, even with the well-structured portfolio, your retirement plan could still be vulnerable, especially if those withdrawals aren't managed with intention. Imagine you retire with a $2 million portfolio and the market drops 20% in the first 2 years. If you're withdrawing $80,000 a year, you're not just drawing income, you're locking in losses that may never fully recover. This is sequence of returns risk, one of the biggest silent threats in retirement. Even a portfolio earning 9 to 10% annually can fail if it's misallocated or overly aggressive or tax inefficient. But with the right structure, a $2 million portfolio earning only 4% can deliver consistent income. It can weather market storms, and it can stay tax efficient over time. Now, with your income being protected and your volatility managed, it's time to turn our attention to the question that many people avoid until it's too late. And this is where you need to make sure everything you have built, your wealth, your values, your wishes, get passed on exactly the way you had intended. Because ignoring it, this is where the real risk starts. And you see, unfortunately, some of these most famous names in the history got it wrong as well. Let's start with Michael Jackson. He had a will, but it wasn't properly coordinated with his trust, which led to millions in estate taxes. All of that could have been minimized or avoided. And then you have Prince. He died without a will, with an estate got all tied up in probate for over 6 years. And Tony Soprano, well, he had a will, but he didn't use tax-efficient strategies, which cost his family over $30 million in taxes. And finally, we have Aretha Franklin. She had handwritten wills all over the place. One was under her couch cushion, and that led to confusion, conflict, and courtroom. Now, I know these are high-profile stories, but the same mistakes happen every day to everyday families. What's needed is a coordinated estate strategy, one that's not just about distributing assets, but about preserving your intention, minimizing your taxes, and protecting your legacy from becoming a courtroom story. So here's the question. If something happened to you tomorrow, would your family know exactly what to do? And would your wishes be carried out clearly and efficiently? Because estate planning failures don't just happen because people forget. They happen because people assume. They assume a will is enough. They assume their beneficiaries are current. They assume their family will know what to do, but those assumptions can cost everything. Without proper titling and updated documents, your estate could lose 4 to 7% or more in fees, and every detail is a public record. If your trust is outdated and your IRA still named an ex-spouse from 15 years ago as the beneficiary, these small oversights can unravel your entire plan. And no plan means potential disputes, confusions, and delays. So what's the solution? A coordinated estate plan, wills, trusts, account titling, and clear instructions that are kept current and communicated well. And you see, this is how you protect your legacy from the courts, the IRS, or even future family conflict. And it gives you control even after you're gone. And that control is powerful. Let's say you have 3 adult children. One of them is financially responsible, one of them is going through a divorce, and the third one struggles with money. You see, a basic will would treat them all the same, just cutting a check and walking away. But with the trust, you can stagger distributions, you can add protections, you can avoid probate, you can provide ongoing support without the risk of blowing their inheritance. Think of a trust as a rule book that is attached to your money, making sure it's used the way you intended, even when you're not there to explain it anymore. But here's the thing. Not all inheritance are created equal. Some pass tax-free, while some can create surprise tax bills that cuts very deeply. Look at step up in basis. This applies to assets like brokerage accounts, stocks, real estate, even cryptocurrency. When your heirs inherit these assets, their cost basis resets to the market value on the day you pass away. Let me give you an example. If you bought Apple stock years ago for $100,000, by the time you pass, it's worth $300,000. When your children inherit it, the new basis will be $300,000, which means they could sell it right away and pay no taxes on it. But here's where people get tripped up. Not all assets qualify. Assets like traditional IRAs, 401ks, and annuities are considered IRD, income in respect of a decedent. These don't get step up in basis. They're taxed as ordinary income to your heirs when the money is withdrawn. So if you leave $1 million of IRA to your children, the entire account could be taxable. And under the Secure Act, they generally have to withdraw it within 10 years, which will potentially put them into a much higher tax bracket. Now, comparing that to a Roth IRA, that grows tax-free and it's passed on tax-free. And this is why Roth conversions during your retirement years can be so powerful. And here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. If you've saved over $2 million, estate planning is not optional. It is essential. Without a plan, you and your family could lose 30 to 40% in taxes. You have too much at stake to leave this part unaddressed. Many people think, well, I have a will, I'm covered. But a will doesn't avoid probate. It doesn't control taxes. And it may not even distribute your assets the way you intended it. And without proper titling, trusts, or beneficiary designations, your estate could end up in probate, costing your family time, stress, and money. But this is completely avoidable with proactive planning. You see, this is where a checklist won't cut it. You don't need a cookie cutter template. You need a strategist. A strategist who coordinates all the moving parts and makes sure nothing slips through the cracks. Because this isn't about a theoretical retirement anymore. This is your real life. And when it comes to retirement, you don't just need more information. You don't need another webinar. You need guidance that's personalized, that's clear, and built for the long run. You see, retirement isn't one size fits all. It's personal. That's why customized advice matters. Vanguard did a study and found that tailored guidance can add up to 3% in net returns, and 92% of retirees with personalized financial plan found greater confidence and satisfaction in their retirement plan. And that's where this process becomes real. At this point, the question is simple. What's your next move? You see, I'd like to invite you to schedule a complimentary assessment with me. This is a real conversation. We'll take a comprehensive look at your current retirement strategy and identify what's working, what's missing, and where the hidden risks might be. And if it makes sense to move forward, I'll walk you through every step of implementation. And when it comes to choosing someone to help you guide your financial future, nothing matters more than trust. That's why I'm incredibly proud of consistent 5-star reviews I have received from the people I serve. You see, they've worked with me because they didn't just want a financial advisor. They wanted a personalized CFO, a flat fee fiduciary who shows up with answers. You've seen how taxes, market timing, legacy planning, and even withdrawal order can quietly erode your retirement. But here's the thing, none of this has to catch you off guard. If you're 50 or older, every year you wait narrows your option. Roth conversion windows start to close. RMDs are getting closer. Medicare costs, they start to climb. And without proper planning, your legacy can quietly become a tax liability. But today, you still have choices. You still have control. You still have time to fix what's missing and move forward with clarity and confidence. You see, the truth is, most people don't realize the silent risks until it's too late. Taxes that could have been avoided. RMDs hit harder than expected. The inheritance didn't land where it was intended. These things aren't rare. They're very common, but they're preventable. You should schedule a complimentary retirement assessment with me. Let's protect what you've built, maximize what you keep, and make sure retirement is everything as it should be. And more than that, don't leave it to a chance. Take that first step today.